From classrooms to libraries, Black history is disappearing. Books banned, lessons erased, and students left in the dark about their own heritage. This isn't the 1960s. This is happening right now in America. What do you think about this? This is really sad. They're just trying to erase Black histories, if you ask me. But what do you think? Let's watch these videos, right? And I'll be back with the commentaries.
Trump wants to close the Schomburg Museum. He wants to close the Black History Museum in D.C. They want to erase us as a people. They want to erase our history. They want to erase our legacy. But we're not fucking going anywhere. Our families built this country on their backs. They bled building this country. They died building this country. So this country is ours. We own this fucking country. This country is just as much as ours as you think it's yours. You know what I'm saying? So we're not going anywhere. Y'all still haven't paid us our reparations. We still waiting on that. You never paid that. Black people, we have to stick together more than ever now. We have to stick together. We have to support one another. We have to stay informed. We have to stay up. We have to stay positive. We have to lift each other up. We have to support Black businesses. We got to build our own motherfucking businesses. Let's not rely on them. Y'all want to fucking pull back on DEI. We can do it on our own. We can provide on our own. We've been scraping with scraps and making fucking gold out of that shit. We are fucking innovative and creative people, and you cannot remove who we are. You cannot remove our history, our creativity, what we brought to this fucking country over from Africa. When y'all brought us on this fucking ship, we never forgot who we was. We're fucking kings. We're fucking queens. That's why you see us. We stay iced out. We stay blinged out. Because we never forgot who we are. We know who the fuck we are. We know we royalty. No matter how y'all try to fucking portray it or fucking create whatever fucking narrative. We are fucking kings and queens. Black people, I fucking love you.
So J.D. Vance really stood on stage with his whole chest and said that Black Lives Matter needs to thank Donald Trump. Thank him? For what exactly, JD? For showing us, again, that white entitlement has no shame? For rewriting history? Like we're too stupid to know what just happened in the past 6 months? Nah. Let's educate the senator from Hillbilly LG real quick. Trump literally signed an executive order banning DEI programs across all federal agencies, killing scholarships, Black business programs, and anti-racism training. He erased decades of progress with a pen. In his one big beautiful bill, Trump slashed housing aid, food assistance, Medicaid, and public school funding. Programs that overwhelmingly support Black and brown families. That's not policy, that's economic warfare. Trump's plan cuts billions from Medicaid expansion. In case JD forgot, Black Americans make up a disproportionate share of Medicaid recipients, especially our elders, our disabled, and our working poor. He tried to quietly gut Title III funding from HBCUs in the budget after parading around in 2020 pretending that he actually saved them. Nah, he didn't save us. He sold us a press release. Trump's team tried to block funding and propose zeroing out grants for the Smithsonian Black History programs, the same museum that tells the truth he's been trying to bury under Confederate statues and MAGA lies. And JD wants us to clap for all that? JD, you're asking of people who still healing from redlining, lynching, mass incarceration, and economic apartheid to applaud the man dragging us backward? You want Black Lives Matter to bow to Trump, a man who wouldn't even say our name when we were bleeding in the streets. Let me say it slow for the folks in the back. We are not your mascots, we are not your props, and we are not your political pawns. Trump spent his presidency and now his comeback tour feeding white grievance, lying about slavery, rewriting Jim Crow, and calling anything pro-Black un-American. Meanwhile, JD is standing on the rubble of our progress yelling, "Where's my thank you?" That's like a burglar asking for 5 stars on Yelp after robbing your house. JD, don't ask Black folks to thank Trump. Ask Trump to stop attacking us. Ask him why he's obsessed with erasing our history, starving our communities, and silencing our voices. Ask him why he keeps hugging the Confederate flag while preaching law and order to us. And if you really cared about Black lives, you wouldn't be demanding praise. You'd be demanding justice. Until then, take your caucasity wrap it in that tired red hat, and sit all the way down.
Hey y'all. For those of you who haven't been here long, I wanted to give a general overview of what I do and how I do it. Black history is incredibly important to me for multiple reasons. All history is, but while these a-holes in our government are trying to erase and defund those who teach Black history, I'm educated, I'm loud, and I'm pissed. So I'll be shouting this from the rooftops for the foreseeable future. Anyway, I try to post lesser known Black history every couple of days, and I spend the days in between fact checking, backwards, forwards, in and out, and also emotionally steeling myself enough to discuss atrocities that have been done to our fellow humans throughout history. I do my best to give the most amount of factual information in a short period of time. If you're looking for cut and dried history with no commentary, you've come to the wrong place. Because if my mouth doesn't say how I feel about it, my face is going to. So if you're still here after all that, welcome to the family.
When white people see my posts about racism in America, frequently they say, I didn't know. When Black people see these comments, they say, we already know. There is no way you didn't know. Don't pretend you didn't. This disconnect is really hard to explain, and I've been trying to understand it myself. I'm going to be digging into this really deep because I think it's so important. It's not that we're just oblivious white people. It's that we've been groomed to be oblivious white people. People point out that it's not like this stuff is locked in some vault somewhere. It's available. You can see it. And that's true. But we were trained not to ask questions. We were trained not to look for it. And I see it in my family. I see it in my circle of friends, even some of my friends that are pretty progressive. We have this ingrained training to not ask too many questions. We were taught to trust authority figures, teachers, ministers, police officers, politicians, the anchor guy on the evening news. We believed them because we were groomed from childhood to believe that they were trustworthy. We were not taught that the system itself, the system they were part of, was designed to protect itself first. And frankly, it felt good just to trust them. It's like you had this permanent mommy and daddy figure. It made life feel safe. The gaps in white knowledge were filled in with lies. We were told that poor people were lazy, that's why they're poor. That crime existed in Black neighborhoods because they were Black neighborhoods. That broken families cause poverty. These ideas were not questioned. They were treated as common sense. And we were started with our grooming as infants, as little tiny babies, as little bitty kids that are impressionable and just forming our ideas about the world. So that was our social foundation. We were told that Black people can't keep their marriages together. I was even told that the reason they couldn't keep their marriages together was because of how they were treated during slavery. So out of one side of their mouth, they'd say, wasn't that horrible that families were split up during slavery? But now that has just become part of who they are. And so it's their fault. I don't know, it didn't make sense to me either. We also were not told that welfare benefits were not available if there was a man in the house, a Black woman working 2 jobs who still needed support to raise her children, could not have a husband or partner living in the house with her. And of course we were taught that that was their fault because they couldn't keep their marriages together. As we were growing up and we started to repeat these beliefs, we were seen as respectful and well-adjusted. I don't know, are you getting pissed off? I'm getting pissed off just going through this again. We were guided by the TV news and movies and TV shows to care when white people suffered and to disconnect from the pain of other people. We were taught to feel patriotic about our country without questioning whether they were being truthful with us about why we should feel such patriotism. When we asked those white authority figures that we were taught to trust, we were lied to. Now, when Black people give us honest answers, we don't fully trust them. It's not about ignorance, it's about conditioning. My education is in behavior analysis, and that's how that works. You just expose someone to a social system that supports a certain line of thinking, and you fall for it, especially if you are started out as a young kid being taught all that stuff. And that's what happens to all of us. We were taught that silence is polite and that truth about society is rude or inappropriate. And as a girl that went to a fundamentalist Christian church, that was even more so. You don't ask questions that are going to make people uncomfortable. But that comfort, you see, it kept us obedient. It kept us from asking too many questions. It kept us from wanting to do anything about it because we didn't fully understand that there was something that needed to be done. We were used to preserve a system that depended on our own silence. It kept us from befriending Black people. It kept us from knowing what the hell we thought we knew about those people. So when white people say, I didn't know about any of this, understand what that really means. We were trained not to look. We were trained to believe the stories that we were told by the authority figures. We were shaped by a system that used your trust against you. We were trained to look away. And now we have a choice. White people, we need to get angry about being kept in the dark all these years so that together with our Black neighbors and neighbors of all races, we can break down this oppressive system that has brought us here to the point of fascism. Check the caption for some documentaries to help you get started learning. We need to really get curious.
Child, let me make this plain. We never asked to be with white folk. Not mixed in, not assimilated, and not integrated. Baby, we was already building our towns, our schools, our communities, our businesses long before segregation became a law. We were creating spaces to thrive, to care for our own people. We've always said, leave us alone. In other words, y'all do you, we gonna do us. We were thriving, building, and living on our own terms. What we said was, leave us alone with the money we've contributed to taxes, money that was stolen from us and poured into their communities, their schools, their futures, while our schools were defunded, denied, and left dilapidated. But instead of leaving us alone, they destroyed what we built and burned it all down. No apology, no repair. And when we rebuilt again and again, you erased our progress and called it integration. Baby, something we never asked for. And if we keep it a buck, integration was not about equality. It was about control, about access, and about stealing our brilliance and colonizing everything we created. We lost our schools, our towns, our businesses. And somehow, after all of that, we made progress. But let's be clear. Proximity to whiteness is not liberation. It's not safety. It's not love. It's exploitation. It's erasure. It's us being taught to silence ourselves in classrooms, on teams, in relationships, just to survive. And baby, that's not what we asked for. And I need Black folks to hear me when I say this. Proximity to whiteness means danger. We are not safe. Our kids are not safe. And our bodies, damn sure, ain't safe. But for white folks, proximity to us means draining our creativity, our brilliance, and our joy. They extract our style, our soul, and our magic, and they repackage it without us. So baby, when they say they're rebranding all white towns, which let's be honest, never left, baby, I'm not mad. My soul is rejoicing. Hallelujah. Because maybe, just maybe, we'll finally be safe after all. So go home. You won't be missed. Happy Black History 365, and I'll see you next time.
Family,
Please listen to something that Donald Trump said in regards to our National History, African American Museum and History and Culture in D.C. You know that he is removing many of the artifacts out of there, return them to their owners, because he says museums in our nation's capital should be places where individuals go to learn, not to be subjected to ideological indoctrination or divisive narratives that distort our shared history. First of all, that is such ignorance. So you're saying that you want to remove what really happened in American history because it's divisive, but yet you all had a problem when we were telling you all you need to remove the Confederate flags, remove these Confederate statues because they were divisive. You know, when I first saw this, that what the president and many of his racist cohorts are trying to do, they're trying to erase us. We know that. And at first I got angry and then I got nervous, but then I got quiet. And I said, you know what? God is not going to allow this. Black people will never be erased, and more so our ancestors won't. See, white people, I'm explaining something to you all, especially you racist white folk. God has given you all ample enough time to turn away and repent from your evil, wicked ways, and also to repent on behalf of your ancestors. But you still refuse to do it, and you still sit in your white evangelical nationalist churches and preach this God of love. But yet you want to erase history. If your history is so bad and you are so good now, why can't you teach that, hey, this is what we used to be. This is how we used to treat blacks. This is how we used to treat Native Americans. This is how we used to treat Jews. But now we have learned. You know why you can't do that? Because you have not learned. You haven't. I'm telling you, white folk, your day of reckoning is coming. But it's not coming from where you think. See, our ancestors have been quiet in their graves. They have been quiet. And see, many of you all, you don't believe in all of that, but I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you what I know. You keep removing our artifacts. Removing our artifacts from this museum is like troubling a cemetery. And I'm telling you now, God is not pleased and the ancestors are not pleased. See, we battle a spiritual war, right? So you can sit up here all day long and read your Bibles and quote your little verses while you sit in your white churches, drive your little Harley Davidson gang to your white churches while you sit in the pews drinking your coffee and looking so smug and arrogant. But when judgment starts falling on your home and on your church and on your people, don't look at us, because God said, I've given these people enough time and they still have not repented for the sins of their forefathers. And for that, judgment must come. So black folk, this is a little troubling that they're going to remove stuff, but hey, we're not attached to things, right? It doesn't matter, because you can take away artifacts, you can do whatever you want, but you can never take away the sincerity, the passion, the vigor, the brilliance of our people. And you damn sure not going to stop our next generation. Racist white folk, watch yourself. You are sinners in the hands of an angry God, and he is not pleased with you.
After Richard Nixon declared his war on drugs in 1971, the U.S. prison population rose from 300,000 to 2.3 million incarcerated people, 2/3 of which were people of color. In 1994, President Nixon's domestic policy chief, John Ehrlichman, had an interesting admission to make about that war on drugs. He said, the Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities, we could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did, he said. We know by way of statistics that white people are more likely to be dealing and using, but they've been attacking public education for teaching basic facts like this for the past decade to stir up racial anxiety in the white population. A black man without a criminal record is less likely to get a job interview callback than a white man that has a criminal record. When you use the power of the state to criminalize an entire race of people, to skew the perception of that race by purposefully creating conditions with the intent for those conditions to mimic what you want white people to think of that race. What is that? It's racism, but it's also violence. It's ethnic cleansing. The fact of the matter is that if we stopped purposefully creating volatile and unequal conditions for people of color with the intent to skew the white perception of them, our society would grow and build from the ground up. When we help the Black community on a state and federal level, we improve conditions overall. But that would mean troglodytes like Senator Tom Cotton, amongst others, wouldn't have jobs anymore. Fascism would be out of business, and that's not profitable for them. Black people rotting in prison, even less likely than white people with the same charges to get a job offer after release, creates conditions for constant recidivism within the Black community. And the sole reason for these intentionally crafted conditions is white profit. Slavery never went away. It just became privatized. White people in power are responsible for the way white people perceive people of color. They sold white America a narrative about their character and then meticulously developed a way to keep the Black community in poverty and to keep them in the prison system so that the narrative they wanted to push would become a visible reality. So when white people say that they're just not that into politics, what they really mean is that they have no interest and no desire to fix this. And everybody should take that personally.
Why did I think that every Black person got their enslaver's last name? Descendants of slaves from America, obviously, is who I'm talking about. But why did I think that everybody had the names of their slave master? That's not the case. We all know that a lot of Black people got their last names from their enslavers. But what I didn't know was a lot of the common names, Carter, Smith, Taylor, those all came from Black people's ancestors' occupations. So in case you didn't know, a carter was a person who transported goods using a cart. A cooper is someone who made or repaired barrels. Smith is in relation to a blacksmith, someone who worked with metal. Tailor refers to a tailor, someone who sews and makes clothing. It's just spelled differently for whatever reason. And then you have names like Freeman, Strong, Young, Brown, Black. These represent exactly what it sounds like. Freeman obviously was the person who got their freedom during slavery, and that was just the last name given to Black people during that time so that it could be known that they were free, and that was their free identity. They no longer had a slave identity. And then you have those that took on names that represented their surroundings and geographic locations, such as rivers, banks, woods, hills. Those were names that indicated proximity to nature. Strong is just like it sounds, most likely identifying a person of that stature who portrayed inner strength as well as physical strength. Young, Brown, and Black were names that were given to people to describe their outward appearance. If they looked young, if they were brown, if they were Black, those were the names that stuck and were passed down in the family line. And the fourth way was through false documentation, such as the Freedmen Bureau census and things like that, which forced Black people to change their last names because they were either spelled wrong, misdocumented, anglicized, etc. And others after emancipation rejected their last names and chose their own last names. However, they chose names such as Washington, Lincoln, after predominant figures of their time, which was ironic because, obviously some of them owned slaves, but they still felt some type of prestige to the name and wanted to take after them, rejecting their enslavers. And I'm kind of low-key jealous of y'all because my ancestors just kept their enslavers' last name. It's very Irish. When I was a kid, people would ask me, "Are you related to Michael Jackson?" And I would say, "Yeah, that's my cousin." And he low-key might be. Who knows? I don't know. It's a cool last name, but it's just not, we're not connected to our roots. However, it is cool that, so many of us rejected their last names. The thing I find cool is that knowing that a lot of these names represent the occupations that Black people went into after slavery and the skills that they had. I mean, they did everything. All the Black-owned businesses that were open during emancipation that were not destroyed until much later during the Civil Rights Movement and integration, when Black people moved from their communities and neighborhoods and took their skills into non-Black businesses. But during that time, they relied on themselves for everything. So there you have it. Every name didn't come from the plantation, although many of us, unfortunately, kept the names passed down from the plantation. But, is what it is.
The United States Defense Department webpage, right, that was celebrating a Army general who fought in Vietnam War and received the highest military decoration that you could possibly receive, yeah, that webpage has been removed. And guess what? That Army general was Black. So now when you try to go and look up the United States Army Major General, whose name is Charles Calvin Rogers, you go and look up his Medal of Honor page, you're going to be greeted with a 404 error message. Now, you can follow up with all of this information in the article that's on theguardian.com. But Rogers was awarded with the Medal of Honor by then President Nixon in 1970, right? This is the highest military decorative medal that you could receive. And according to the West Virginia Military Hall of Fame, Rogers was the highest ranking African American to receive this medal. And now the page is gone. Now the page is gone. And not just that, they also removed the letters DEI on the site's address. So all I can say is please continue on showing us that you never gave a fuck about us, because I promise you, you are making us lock in a way that I have to get my words together, but you are making us lock in a way that you can't possibly fathom. You can't possibly imagine what exactly you guys are doing with the Black community, with the African diaspora, constantly showing us that you guys never gave a fuck about us. And we knew this, but now you are giving us the transparency in which we've always been asking for. We want that shit direct. Don't play like you like us and then behind closed doors talk shit about us or do things to try to make it harder for us to advance. Show us right now, right here in public with no fucking jokes, no little fucking hiding behind closed doors that you don't fuck with us, and watch how all of us will act and move accordingly. And I just want to end it off with this. Trying to erase our history didn't work for you guys in the past, and it's not going to work for you now. So continue trying to erase our history. Understand, we will find the information. It will get back to us one way or another.
Sorry to break it to you, but you were taught whitewashed history from white authors, and I'm going to explain how this plays a key role into our imposter syndrome and why we have a lot of Latinos voting for Trump. If you were taught real history, you were taught why Mexico actually lost their country through deceit. They had to give it up because they had no choice. Or better yet, you would have been taught how it was legal in Texas to lynch Mexicans. What about that the U.S. has been using delousing procedures with Zyklon B and other chemicals to clean Mexicans at the border that were coming here to work, and these same procedures were used to inspire Nazi gas chambers? Weren't you taught about the Zoot Suit riots here in LA? Why weren't you taught that indigenous people, aka Mexicans, and all of those people that come from Latin America were also enslaved next to our Black brothers and sisters? That we were also not allowed to go into the restaurants or their theaters, or better yet, how we weren't allowed to use the pools until the very last day prior to cleaning because we were deemed as dirty. Prior to Brown versus Board of Education, it was actually a Mexican and Puerto Rican family that helped desegregate the schools here in California in the OC. And that case is known as Mendez versus Westminster. And the young lady that went into that school first, the desegregated school, is actually still alive today. You can look it up. How about why were you not taught about the Chicano movement and how hard we worked after desegregation to get brown teachers into the school so people would not make fun of our names anymore? Or better yet, how we were tired of the Latina women asking for clarity in their education only to be told there's no point in teaching you this because you're going to end up pregnant anyways. Why is it that in Black and brown communities, we are taught that voting doesn't fucking matter and everything is rigged? If it did not matter, why are they burning ballots? Why is there voter intimidation? I lived in the South, outside of this progressive bubble that is LA. And let me tell you, their racism is right in your face. They tell you that you don't deserve to be here. They tell you how stupid you are. And I'm here to let you know you need to go to school. Ain't no way the Chicano movement fought for us to get a better education. The Chicano movement asked and fucking demanded that we had Chicano studies. You don't know this. They don't want to teach you that we fought for this shit. They don't want to teach you that we fought for the right to vote, or better yet, that we fought for our fucking juries to look like us, because the reason we were getting killed through the death penalty or in prison is because white peers were judging us. You weren't taught this shit in order to divide us. Because if you somehow think that you're better than Black people or you're better than anybody else, you are gonna then vote white. You are not white. You are not. We have suffered the same fate as our Black brothers and sisters, but it is not publicized because the US wants to continue the fucking narrative that just because you're Black, you're born criminal, and they are not. I'm gonna fucking check every Hispanic or Latino's fucking prejudice and racism. I'm tired of this anti-Blackness. I'm fucking tired of it. It doesn't only just happen to the African American community. Anti-Blackness exists on an Afro-Mexican level and Afro-Latino level, and I need us to fucking wake the fuck up. Start questioning everything. Question everything and think critically. Everything that you fucking know. Ask yourself, who taught me that? Who taught me to be Christian? Who taught me to hate these people? Who taught me to not believe in myself? Why don't I feel like I belong? Who taught me that I was Mexican, El Salvadorian, Guatemala? What does that mean? What's underneath nationality? Who am I really? Because if you dig even deeper, you're gonna fucking know that we all came from Africa. You're also going to know that we are indigenous and that the term Latino and Hispanic was coined by white people. Why would I say I'm Latina and Hispanic? From the people that fucking persecuted, murdered, and committed genocide against my own people. Why the fuck would I do that? I need you to start learning and start reading and start decolonizing your mind. Right now is the time. The earth is demanding it. The people are demanding it. And if you keep siding with these white people, just fucking wait, because you're next.
My people, hear me now. So Donald Trump just signed an executive order to silence our truth, to wipe out our history, and to put a fake smile on a nation that's been bleeding us dry since its birth. He calls it restoring truth in American history. But let's be real. This ain't about truth. It's about control. He wants to stop the Smithsonian from teaching our children about slavery, racism, genocide, and injustice. The very things that built this country brick by bloody brick. He's attacking the National Museum of African American History and Culture and any program that talks about the systems that tried to keep us down. Why? Because our truth makes him uncomfortable. Because our history exposes their lies. Trump says our museums have fallen under divisive, race-centered ideology. No, sir. Our museums have finally started telling the whole story. Not just the whitewashed version, not just the fairy tale, but the truth. That racism shaped American laws, its economy, and its identity. He says exhibits that teach about power, privilege, and disenfranchisement are anti-American. But what's more anti-American than hiding the truth? Let's not forget, they told us that slavery was a necessary evil. They told us that we were 3/5 of a man. They erased Black towns from maps. They built statues to the very people who fought to keep us in chains. And now they want to make it illegal for the Smithsonian, our institution, to even say race exists as a social construct. They don't want us to learn the truth because truth brings power, and power in the hands of people terrifies them. Trump's order even targets hard work and individualism, claiming that we label those things as white culture. That's a lie. What we've said is that those values were used to judge and punish Black folks, while white systems handed out privilege without effort. That's the kind of twisted narrative they spread to silence us. This ain't new. Every time we gain ground, they move to the finish line. Every time we lift our voices, they try to shut us up. But we are not going back, as Kamala says. We are the truth they fear. We are the mirror they avoid. We are the proof that this country has never been perfect, but that our fight for justice is what makes it worth saving. So what do? We stand up. We speak out. We protect our stories. We teach our kids what the museum can't. We support our Black historians, our artists, our storytellers. We call out every lie, every law, every order meant to erase us. Because if they take our history, they take our power. And if we lose that, we lose everything. But as long as we breathe, our truth lives on. They want to rewrite the story, but baby, we are the story. Let the world know. We won't let them erase our pain, our progress, or our people. Not today, not ever. So rise up, speak truth, stay woke. We got work to do.
I was literally having a conversation with myself last time, and I was thinking to myself, if religion was so good for Africa, if it was so good for Black people, do you think our colonizers would have allowed us to have it? Like, let's think about it, right? They stripped away our languages, they stripped away our culture, they stripped away even our names, they stripped away everything, our freedom. But the only thing they allowed us to keep was our faith. Like, as a Black person, does that not make you question, is there not a hidden agenda behind religion? If religion was so good for Africa, why would they let us keep it? Like, do you guys not think about, if they could strip away basic things like our names, but they wouldn't take away our faith, do you guys not think it's something you need to question?
Being Black in America means being raised in an environment that has some semblance of internalized self-hatred. And there are some people now in their adulthood who are using their time to run to the white world as fast as they can. What they won't tell you is that a lot of them are doing it simply to try to dilute the blood of their children. They do not want full black children. They hate blackness. They have an internalized sense of hatred for blackness, for being black. They seek to dilute the blood of their children because they hate themselves. That's men, that is women. Don't be confused when people are fetishizing whiteness. They're trying to dilute the blood of their children. And that's a part of it that a lot of people do not talk about.
We talked about the 8 million black babies in this country right now. We got serious conversations that need to be ongoing about how are we going to shore up the educational bag for our kids, because public school systems is a wrap. It's a wrap. So, and the cavalry is not coming.
What do you mean about the it's a wrap?
What I mean by that is that for a second time in United States history since the Civil War, these United States at the federal level have decided to abdicate its responsibility to deliver a fair and equitable education system as a public good and a right to all American children. This happened the first time during the fall of after the fall of Reconstruction, okay? When the Freedmen's Bureau fell, when the Freedmen school system was wiped away, okay? And when the federal government said we will allow states to choose how they deal with their black citizens. That was the first time. The second time was when this occupier came into office for his second regime and immediately dismantled the Department of Education, which is unraveling before our eyes. This, again, abdication. So that's what I mean by it's a wrap for the public school system.
Well, there is this TikTok creator named Viz Taylor, and she is a Vietnamese woman who is married and had a child with a black man. In her video, she was talking about how her mom was telling her to pinch her daughter's nose. Make her nose to seem more smaller and more pointy. Do the same thing with the ears to make them smaller. The reason why her mother wants her to do that to her own daughter is to get rid of the child's black features. Then Viz Taylor said an interesting question. Does this type of behavior only happen in Asian culture? And the answer is, most of the time, yes. Additionally, this seems to happen amongst Vietnamese people. Several years ago, I used to date a Vietnamese woman. She would tell me stories how her mother will always pinch her nose when she was a kid to make her nose look smaller. She will also mess around with her eyelids, and she would do this constantly while she was growing up. This has almost completely eliminated her Asian features. She has said that sometimes that she doesn't even feel Asian because her own mom has taken away that right from her. But that wasn't the only time. I've met other Vietnamese people in my past that has also had the same occurrence. Another thing I want to talk about is that there are a lot of Asian people who pride themselves with being in interracial relationships, with majority of them being in a white and Asian relationship. But what a lot of Asian people do not understand is that they can only be in an interracial relationship under certain conditions. One, it has to be another Asian person with the same ethnicity. Two, has to be the same skin tone or brighter. Three, has to be a white person. If it was another person with darker skin complexion, that and or a black person, that can never happen most of the time. Obviously, there are Asian people, especially in the older generation, who are accepting of this. However, most of the time, it is not the case. Most of the time, when an Asian person is dating a black person, you will not get the same acceptance as that same Asian person dating a white person. That mainly stems from the older generation. I want to make that perfectly clear. It is very different when it comes to the younger and new generation of Asian people. However, every progress comes with a setback. Unfortunately, a lot of Asian people in the newer generation are not racist, but self-hating. When it comes to black people, though, we are very accepting because we understand that we have a historical and cultural connections with Asian people. If you're an Asian person, especially you're mixed with black, we welcome you in our communities, in our culture, in our family. In fact, a lot of black people actually like Asian people, but a lot of Asian people do not like us. Obviously, the love is incredibly one-sided. Viz Taylor also said in a video that when she had the baby, her own mother said, "Do you think the baby is going to turn out dark?" That pissed off Taylor. Also, when Taylor was a young girl in Vietnam, her skin tone was very tan. The point is, if you're going to be in an interracial relationship, it is best to acknowledge that there are going to be severe advantages and disadvantages. If you are dating a white person, obviously your family is going to accept. However, you are Asian and you are dating a black person, do not expect the same thing as with dating a white person. I even had multiple interactions with Asian people who have dated a black person, especially Asian women dating a black man, and they have been in the happiest of relationships. These relationships, they found a lot of understanding, love, and culture, especially when it comes to experiences, which is fantastic. I knew this. If there was one other race that Black people can get along with 100% of the time, that would be Asian people. However, they discontinued these relationships because their parents, their older generation in the family, completely disacknowledges and reject this relationship. A lot of them get into a relationship with a white person, and even though there is love there for them, I think, there are multiple things they couldn't receive in their new relationships, like culture, experiences, and history. There's a massive disconnect, but some of them tried to force it to make it work because it's what their family approves of. However, there's still a lot of Asian people who still stick with their Black partners, make it work, have children, get married, and have the greatest relationships I have ever seen. Some Asian family members come around and become accepted, while the rest of them is like absolutely not, and some of them even go as far as to cut their own children off. Obviously, when it comes to Black and Asian relationships, it can be one of the strongest connections between POC and Black people. However, until Asian people in general, because not all of them are like this, until they significantly reduce their obsession over whiteness and hold over white supremacy, that and superiority and other beauty standards, and self-hatred, then the connection of Black and Asian people will never reach to its fullest potential. That's why I'm more accepting for Black and Asian relationships, because there's culture, history, and experiences behind this. It makes it more meaningful. However, not to disregard, there's also definitely fetishization between the two amongst some people. In most cases, it's quite all right. Anyways, Taylor, congratulations on your new baby, and hopefully your family could be one of those few who come around, but only time will tell.
So I'm a dystopian fiction author, and one of my jobs is to create worlds in which history doesn't exist. Why do that, you might wonder? Why erase history for a population? A thing that is currently happening south of the border. I'm in Canada. The reasons are many, but people remember things. People remember the past. They try not to repeat certain elements of it. And as long as the past is manipulated in such a way that you are convinced that the place where you live is the best place on earth, as long as it's manipulated in such a way where you believe you are free, where you believe there is no better place, there is no better life, there is no better society, you will be compliant to the government. That is what the governments want in a dystopian society. They do not want to have to fear the people. They want the people to fear them. They want the people to rely on them. They want the people not to know that there are places in the world that have better lives than them, that have better healthcare, that have better societies in general. And so when they do things like they erase heroic historical figures who made a huge difference, and they replace them with historical figures who were violent or who were racist or who were whatever, they're doing that in order to manipulate society, the society that they want. When they do things like they remove a certain demographic from that society, they are doing it in order to manipulate the population. They are doing it to make a more compliant population. I'm watching that every single day from Canada. It's absolutely horrifying. But be really, really, really wary of anyone trying to delete your history. It will not necessarily affect you. You will remember. But the next generation, the next generation, the next generation, as long as that information is suppressed, they will not know what's happened here. Your children, your grandchildren, they will not know. If this continues, they will not know, and they will firmly believe that whatever that nation looks like in 50 years is exactly what it always was, what it always should have been. And they will believe they're free. And they may not be free. They may very well not be free at all. The government is supposed to fear the people, not the other way around. The people should never fear the government, and if they do, that's not a government. That's an authoritarian system that is meant to frighten you.
There's this guy named Albert Pike. He had a statue erected in Washington, D.C. in 1901. He was a Confederate soldier. Pike switched allegiances to the New Nothing Party due to the Whigs Party's reluctance to embrace slavery, and sided with the Confederacy when the Southern states seceded from the United States in 1861. Later in the years, a lot of administrations and a lot of people wanted to have the statue removed. In the 1990s, there were several activists that tried to have the statue removed unsuccessfully. A couple of them even went on to say that if it was a statue of terrorism. In the aftermath of the Civil War, Pike remained deeply opposed to black suffrage, insisting that the white race And that race alone should govern this country. It is only one that is fit to govern, and is the only one that shall ever govern this country. In 2020, after weeks of protest in response to the murder of George Floyd, protesters using rope and chains pulled the statue down, set it on fire. The then President Trump tweeted, "The DC police are not doing their job as they watch the statue be ripped down and burned. These people should be immediately arrested, a disgrace to our country." And Donald Trump is excited about this statue being restored. Yet, Medgar Evers, an American civil rights activist and United States Army veteran who served in World War II, who after fighting for this country returned to not only be treated less than a war hero, but to be treated less than a man because of his color. He died for his activism of creating equality, justice, and fairness for blacks. And in 2009, the Navy Secretary named a naval vessel after Medgar Evers, something that current President Donald Trump has already ordered to be renamed, along with removing Medgar Evers' name from the Arlington Cemetery website honoring Black Americans who fought in the nation's war.
Welcome back. I must say I'm really, really happy, and I'm giving it up for, all of the creators, right? They're really good. Trust me, that's why I like Black Americans. You don't want to give them their history, right? You're trying to shy away from it. You're trying to hide it from them. But these people have it. They have it. Some of them have it off heart. Wake them up from their sleep, they know it. You can never erase their history from them. What you can only do is hide it from this generation right now, like these little kids that are being born. But erasing it totally is really going to be hard. So even if they erase the past, how will our children know who they are? Do you think this is politics, racism, or something bigger? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you think this is? Because this is pure wickedness. Do you even believe they can erase the past? Hey, I know my people who they know, I know you won't fail in this, right? Let me see your views in the comments. And if you have not subscribed, please go ahead, subscribe, like, share this video, turn on your notification buttons, right? I am your own sister, and I will be back with another one next time. In fact, soon, very soon. After this video, yes, soon. Bye, guys.